Ruth is a book of providence. That is, a book full of God's ever-present hand, with all things, at all times, in all places, even down to the tiniest detail. And whilst God is never said to move anything in this book, he is seen to be moving everything in this beautiful story. Admittedly, at the beginning, God's ever-present hand doesn't seem especially present. Famine has taken the whole of Naomi's family out of the land of Israel. And now death has taken away the whole of Naomi's family. Her husband and her 2 sons have died within the space of 10 years. However, God's providence, his ever-present hand, is always at work, always looking to bless his people, both as individuals and as a nation. Firstly, the Lord provides Ruth for Naomi. Although Naomi says to stay at home, Ruth is having none of it. She's determined to stick with Naomi to the end. And so they arrive back at Bethlehem together. And here and throughout, Ruth shows her noble character. She's loyal, generous, kind, godly. So keep your eyes open in this book for extraordinary godliness in the lives of God's ordinary people. And as they imitate him, their God, these people in the book should inspire and instruct us. Secondly, the Lord provides Boaz for Ruth and Naomi. As Ruth and Naomi start their quest for food and survival in Bethlehem, it just so happens that it's harvest time. And it just so happens that Ruth ends up working in Boaz's field. And it just so happens that Boaz is related to Ruth through Naomi to be their kinsman redeemer. Now, Ruth finds favor in the eyes of Boaz, receiving kindness, provision, and protection. And here, the kindness of Boaz to Ruth can't help but lead us to the kindness of Jesus for sinners. Jesus is, amongst many things, related to us by taking on our humanity, kind to us. He loves us. He protects us. He provides for us. He buys us. He owns us. He unites himself to us. Boaz is a stunning shadow of our stunning Savior. Or thirdly, the Lord provides a future for his people. Now, the story of Ruth seems to start just with 3 individuals, but God's ever-present hand is working out a much, much bigger story. Now, while the first verse locates us in the time of the judges, the last verse of Ruth looks forward to and leads us to the time of the kings. From the line of Ruth and Boaz would come King David himself. That's providence. That's God's ever-present hand. Ordinary circumstances resulting in extraordinary outcomes and a bright future for his people. Now, the structure of the book tells the story clearly enough as we work through, firstly, the background story in Moab, chapter 1, the provision in the fields in chapter 2, an encounter at the threshing floor in chapter 3, and then redemption at the city gate in chapter 4. But the story has an amazing symmetry. A very ordinary set of interactions in chapters 2 and 3 between Naomi, Ruth, and Boaz are actually the way that God moves us from chapter 1 to chapter 4, moving us from death and mourning and bitterness to the birth, rejoicing, and hope of chapter 4. And in this, we have providence, God's ever-present hand in the story of Ruth, a book of providence.